Welcome back to Home Built by Howard, and this week we're going to keep going on positioning the BMW components into the Triumph so that we can see if we'll get everything to fit. So stick around. So if you're new here, this is my TR6 that I am doing a Restomod on. I tore apart a BMW 135 for all the mechanicals and the electronics, and we're trying to stuff it into this car. If you haven't been watching, there's a link somewhere around. You can check out the channel. There's a playlist so you can catch up. Just remember to comment, like, subscribe, and notify. It helps that algorithm, and hopefully people will enjoy what I'm doing. I don't have sponsors, but I do have my own little device that I make. It's called Hornetic. There's a link up in the bio. If you want to support the channel, I don't have t-shirts or anything yet, but if you like the content that I'm doing and you want to see more and you want to help support, pick up a Hornetic unit. It's a little module that lets you hook a second horn into your car, so you can beep when you just want to say hey, and when you're done asking, you hold your horn down and it automatically will fire off whatever the second horn is that you throw into your car. So moving on. This last episode, if you remember, if you were here, we got the strut towers tacked into place, the suspension mounted, we got the motor and transmission in place, and we test fit the heater to make sure that it would clear the transmission as well as the transmission tunnel. This episode, we are going to get the front end back on the car and start to work on the BMW's electrical box, the one that is, pre-made and waterproof, and try and get that into place. We're going to test fit the fenders onto the car to check to see how the brake booster, one of the brake booster modules, will fit under or into the fenders. I want to remove the bracing that I have across behind the seat here, just so I can actually move the seat further back, which will give me a better indication of how the seats fit, as well as whether I have the space to move my steering wheel backwards. And we're going to try and get the transmission tunnel at least, into place so that we can see where we're going to go forward with that. So that's what we're doing. Let's get started. Okay, so this is the electronics box that came out of the BMW. As you can see, it's a well-designed unit, and it actually sits right here. In the last video I talked more about this, but it sits here, and we need to know if it's going to clear the fender, or if the fender is going to cover it without it being in the way. Now on the other side, because of where my brake pedal has to be, my booster had to be way over to the side. Now this is the modulation unit for controlling the ABS, etc., and it actually sits right here. Now I know that this will be cleared by the fender, and I'll have to build a box for it, but what I need to do is I need to see how far down it needs to go and how I'm going to actually mount it onto the inner fender there. So first things first, let's take a look at this electronics box in detail. Right, so I just opened this up. Now, what's kind of interesting about this, it actually comes with a little blower, and that is a fan for keeping the electronics dry, which is just kind of cool. So the wires go in, and if any moisture or condensation happens, it's taken care of. Now, these are a watertight style of drop-in that keeps water from getting into the box from the engine bay, and this part here just slots down into this section here. It also has like a little drain plug, so if it gets splashed, it drains out, etc., and there's some vents, but basically that is the unit that I need to get to sit in here. So the first thing I absolutely have to do is I need to cut this inner fender the same as I did on the other side so that I can tilt it down and make it attached to the strut tower. The other thing I'll have to do is cut away some of this here. But first, what I'd like to get done is I'd like to dry fit the front end of the car back on and get a fender in place so that I can take some measurements and see, how well this is going to fit or not fit, as the case may be. Okay, even before I start that, I need to remount this front bar here so that I actually have my mounting screws for the front end of the car. So we're going to have to tack weld that in place. So let's get that started. The fenders go on, the hood goes on. Now the hood's sitting a little bit high, but that was expected. I don't know if you can see in there. There's the brake unit there. It's really hard to see. So anyway, if I lift this just a little bit, you can see the brake, and then there's a heavy support beam that runs down here that I'll just need to cut into in order to allow that to close. If I look from the front, you can see that heavy beam there, and it's half the cap. That's literally, you can't really, it's hard to see, but literally only half the cap is being touched by it. As far as anything else goes, I'm pretty happy about that. I think what I'll do is mark that, cut it out, because I'd like to see this hood sitting flat over top of the motor, etc. So let's just mark it and cut it out and then refit the hood. Okay, so still a little bit, it's too high. That brake booster is going to have to go down a little bit further. I need another half an inch or so on the brake booster. It's even tucked up. It's oh wait, no, maybe I can cut that a bit more. I have a little bit more space that I can cut into. Maybe I'm lucky. Oh God, this is a pain. And I really don't like lifting the hood like that because it's got a kink in it here. And I mean, it was there. That was there before I started doing this. So I don't know, that's going to have to be fixed. All right, well, let's, there's some nice scratches too. Let's get the rest of that. Let's try cutting that little piece, give it one more test fit, and see if that does for us. Well, it's down. All things considered, that's actually not bad at all. It's still sitting in a couple places. It's still touching, but so as far as the the brake booster goes. It's really hard to see, but let me see if I can get a bit of light back in there for you. Nope, can't see it. Really? No, can't see the brake booster. But it's the cap is clearing, so the cap is right about here, and it's probably, I don't know, about 3 millimeters from the skin, and this needs to sit down about 3 millimeters. So I'm going to have to drop it about probably a quarter inch, 10 millimeters or so, 10 or 12 millimeters. This side, I got a bit of a hump as well. You can sort of see it's rocking because it's sitting on. It's still sitting down on the shock tower. So there's a little bit of adjustment that needs to be made, but it's millimeters. It's like 10 millimeters, quarter inch. I can deal with that. That's not a problem. So I'm pretty happy with that. Next, I need to look at that brake booster, and I'm going to take a measurement inside here, and down. Because if you remember from previous episode, this chalk line along the top here, this is going to come out and then it's going to drop down. So I'm going to be gaining about 2 inches there below the radius of the fender. So, we're going to be bringing this out another couple inches anyways, just to clear the tires. So I feel like there's going to be plenty of room on that side for that. Probably the same on this side, but that power box sits a bit higher. So I'm going to have to take some measurements. Maybe what I'll do is I'll do a cardboard cutout that is the same shape as the inside of the fender at that position, and I'll put it in place, and that way I'll sort of have a negative to take a look at what's going on. I don't need to be looking underneath. So let's get this hood back off. I'm good where the hood is. I know that I can adjust it. I know the brake booster's got to go down a quarter inch, and I want to check these parts to make sure they're going to fit inside the fenders. I'm pleased with that. That's actually tucked in there quite nice. It's catching just at the top corner here, so this has to turn just a little bit this way, and it's sitting right down on this inner fender that I just put into place there. But all told, so it's going to have to move this way a tiny bit and this way just a tiny bit. What I think I'm going to do, though, is I still have the inner fender from both sides with the mounting bolts on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to graft that right back into place. So I'm going to get rid of the old Triumph inner fender, which doesn't matter because, well, let's face it, my tire is going to be here. Okay, like you can see where the suspension is, right? This inner fender is like, it's in here. Like, look where that fender is, in here. my tire's going to be here. I don't need any of this. I could pretty much go straight down and gain all this space here. So, but what I'd like to do is keep that inner fender, even if I block it off from the outer, in order that I have the mounting, because this actually sits down. It sits into that space. It sits on. There's a grommet here, and there's another one here that it kind of sits down on, as well as it bolts to the old firewall. So I may actually drive out to the barn where I've got the carcass of the BMW and cut out that piece of the firewall like I did on this side, in order that I can bolt it in properly. So anyway, let's cut away this inner fender here that I don't need, and see how that adjusts things. Okay then, as you can see, that box sits quite nice in there. I took out a little bit more here just for some room around it. The bottom fits really nice. It's a little tight against the gonna move back. It's a little tight against that, but again, this will come up just a little bit like that, and it'll sit beautifully. And then you can see how much space I've got in here. I mean, I got a good 4 fingers plus between the old firewall and where I'm going to put the new one. That new firewall, which should weld right up to the piece that I cut out with the tower, which means that I should be able to get it to sit really nice and at the right angle in the right spot. And that is happy. And as you can see, I have gobs of space for the fender. So not only does it sit below the radius here, but I'm going to be coming out like that and down good 2+ inches there. So that gets that into place. So I'm happy about that. Now let's move on to the other side, to the booster. Well, that took very little time. So as you can see, this is where it needs to sit in order to catch the what you'll call it's there. It may need to actually go a little bit further out, but it's going to be pretty easy to box this in and make it part of the engine compartment. Now, unfortunately, I lost the piece here that had the rubber grommets and all of the pieces for the brake lines, the same that I had on the other side. And that's because the brake booster needed to sit further inboard. There was just no way to pull it this way any further based on where my brake pedal was. I tried moving it over a bit, and my brake pedal was just not really in the right spot. So I'm happy with where that's going to fit. That was my big question. It has a lot of clearance on the bottom to that fitting. Now, I have the original bracket. This is the bracket that goes on the bottom of this thing, like this, and it mounts to the inner fender, which I have sitting over here. Right, so this sits in like this. there, and it faces up on the floor. So that used to be nice. Oh well. Okay, so I'm happy with where that is now. Now, before I move on to anything that side of the windshield, I really want to get this dialed into place here. So basically what I want to do is I want to remove this old inner fender, and I want to reattach the inner fender from the BMW into place so that I can get a better idea of how and where this is going to sit. Now, I'm not 100% sure. I think this is actually further down than it was before. So I may need to rethink that. But let's, we know that this inner fender's got to go anyways. So I think what I'm going to do is just bend it out of the way for now and pop in that other BMW inner fender and just see where I'm at. I just wanted to pop the original wheel on here just to see, what kind of clearance I have. And I got loads of space in here. Even with the wheel turned all the way, obviously, it's not gonna touch because I kept the geometry the same as the BMW. That just lets me know I'm golden with this piece. Now, it's this part of the bracket sticking out further than I'd like it to. Can I get away with it? Probably. Given the fender, it's going over it. So with that in the right position here for this unit, I should only be sticking out to about here, which means I can do a much nicer, tighter box around this thing, etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just trim this piece down so that it meets the bottom. I'm probably just going to bend it out so I can clamp it first and put the unit into place just to make sure that I've got the right clearances. So let's do that next. So just before I get ahead of myself and actually, grind this down and then get ready to weld it, as it sits, that's level. But I need to put the brace back in across the engine just to make sure that these are in. These are in the right place. So let's get that done. Well, after a lot of on and off and fitting and not fitting and back and forth and back and forth. I've got this tacked into place real ugly, like I blew through the thing here, but you know what? We can fix that when we finish weld it. I've only welded the front lip of it right now. It's secure. I could probably pop this off and it's not going to move on me, which is good. Because it's got a curve in it where it's welded, but it's attached to the shock tower. And I didn't want to attach to anything else because obviously I've got to weld a bunch of stuff there, but it also means that I can then take this off and I can flip it around, put it on my bench. I can weld it, not in situ, where it'll be a lot easier to weld it off. I'll have to clean all of this up in order to start to build the box that I'm going to put here. But again, I'm not going to worry about that until this is solid welded into place. Likewise, I haven't started the other side. I was looking at this, this front inner fender here. Let me just zoom out a little bit. And this front inner fender here, I need to bring it out to about here, right? And what I started to think was, well, what I can just do is I can cut it from here and actually move the whole thing out and then just trim it and fold it back up. And that way, this inner part of the fender will just move this way. And it will somewhat line up with my strut. And I should be able to weld it right to this seam. Once I get it to the outside of the frame rails. So I was just looking at that and thinking, that's something I could do. Now on this side, I already cut this away before, when I was first fitting the engine in. But I did keep that piece right there. So I will be able to refit that piece, just re-weld it back into place. And then do the same thing, shift that one towards the outside. So that's kind of where I've got to right now. Next thing on the agenda is going to be maybe doing the same thing on this side under this box, just getting that piece tacked in. Now, because I don't have or don't need these mounting holes, these mounting holes, it's going to be a lot easier to do that side. And I may not need to mess around with it anywhere near as much as I did on this side. So hopefully that'll be easier for us. But let's start to make a move on that. Ooh, I just noticed I can see light right there. Oh, yeah, that needs to be fixed. Oh man, and that should have been done when I did the sill on the passenger side, but I missed it. Wow. Okay, well, there's something else to put on the list. Well, we're back out at the farm here with what's left of this car. So as I mentioned, I'm going to grab the firewall here on this side where the power comes through. So I'm going to be cutting that away on that side, and I'll take a look and see if there's anything else that I might want or need before I move on. So let's chop that out, and I'll be back when it's done. Well, off camera, I took that piece and I just cut it down to size so that I have the part that I want. And it'll sit something like that inside the car. So basically, it will fit down inside here like this, like that in there. And it should line back up with the original, almost. So it's a little, I got to trim a little bit more off the right. I like to creep up on it, so I got to take another inch or so off of it. Yeah, in order to get it to tuck up against the original piece there. So I'm going to just mark this out and get a little bit of that trimmed up. Well, hindsight being 2020, I probably shouldn't have been cutting all this out. Oh well, that'll teach you to keep most of the old car and not most of the new car, you know. Same on the other side to a certain extent. But I got these pieces fit back into place and cut down to size, and obviously there's a bunch of holes in the bottom that I'm gonna have to fix. But what's really cool here is not only do I have the mounting point for this power box where the power comes in to this sealed unit, but I also have where the cable, the positive cable, goes down under the car through here to the back of the car where the battery is going to be. So that's actually, is a factory type thing. And I still have the original cable along with all of the plastic covers and mounting hardware that runs on the inside of the firewall as well as under the car. So I'm going to try and reuse most of that as well. So as far as anything goes, I got these pieces here. This one will get tacked in it back into place where it was supposed to be, as well as this one will get tacked in, and they'll be secure enough that I'm going to weld them on the bench. I'm not going to bother even tacking them into place here. The other side I did tack into place in situ because I wanted to make sure that this bracket was in the right place for the new position of this. So where we're at now, so that takes care of the firewall part. Moving on from that, in order obviously to weld those up, I need to take those out, take them apart from the frame. But if you remember, I added in these new 2x2s to lift these up, and I'm now happy with those, but I can't weld them in place with the motor in place. So we put the motor in place to check the transmission tunnel to make sure that I had clearance for the transmission. So yeah, moving forward here is kind of where do I go, right? I got to take the motor back out in order to weld those. I don't want to take the motor out because I want to make sure the transmission tunnel is going to go into place. The transmission tunnel I can't put into place until I get the seat back further, which will allow me to double check my steering and possibly readjust some of this in here. I can't move the seat back until I redo this. This is supporting the back end of the car. So I'm kind of in one of these places where I got to redo this internal structure that I put in the back of the car in order to be able to move the seat back. And I've got to figure out where and how I'm going to position that. So I think that's going to be the next thing on the agenda, is to, get a jack under the back part of the car with a cross beam so that I can keep it lifted and I don't worry about, it sagging at all when I go and take that bar out. And I've got to figure out, where I want to move it back here. What I might end up doing is actually reusing the bolt holes for the steering, the seat belt. And what I can do is just drill a couple holes in this, or make an angle plate that I can weld it to, and I'll bolt an angle plate right to that. I'll cut this out of here and weld it to that angle plate, and then just shorten these up to make them fit to the new position. That'll give me all the room that I need. So let's make some L brackets for that and go find the bolts if I can find them. Okay, well, what I've done is I've actually used the original seatbelt grommets here, and I'm just going to weld right to them. I'm just not going to need those because I'm going to have a roll cage with the straps on it. So those are bolted in, and I've just cut this, surprisingly, all I did was cut them, and I was originally going to have this bar on the other side, but then I dropped it on this side and they fit beautifully. You can sort of see the difference between the first thing I ever did, with cutting and welding here way back at the beginning of the project, right? And, what I'm doing now. So there's definitely something to be said for practice. So I'm going to get the TIG welder out, and I'm going to TIG weld this into place. Then I'm going to just cut these two pieces off of there. There's another one on that side. It was just easier to cut it straight than it was to try and get in there with the big bar in the place. So I'll get those cleared away, and then we'll be able to see how the seat moves back into place. Or maybe I should just try that now. Yeah, let's do a high speed. Okay, then. So, the original BMW firewall is up against the inside of this part here. That I know because that was this cross member here matches the original BMW firewall cross member that I took measurements from. Hence why it's so close to where these are positioned in relation to the suspension and to the steering column. So the current firewall is really not doing me anything right now other than supporting this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to I don't know what I'm going to do. I had a plan, and then it went out the window when I started talking to you. Okay, so just taking a look down in here, these big clodhoppers, there's room there for my gas pedal, and I'm over to my brake, which is not a problem. Again, if I need to, there's a big curve in that brake pedal. If I need an extra, inch or two, I can take care of that. This is where the the transmission tunnel sits, and if you look down inside, you can see the drive shaft, and I've got pretty much the same amount of space on either side, and I'm only just touching there. Is there room for the seat to squeak forward? Well, there is, if I don't have carpet and I'm not worried about my seat. So it's tight. It's a little tight. This side, again, I have some space, between the door, but that's great for, being able to reach the controls. But right here, I am just tight. There's no way that I can move this seat further outboard. It's impossible. Now, I don't know if you saw earlier, my gear shift lever, my arm is dead straight. It is forward to where I would have liked it, but you know what? I'm good with where it is. How often do you need it? It's not a stick shift, right? It's not like I need to be changing gears. I just put it in gear and I drive, right? So that's fine. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just cut away this little piece here and a slot there so that I can move this forward. The 1 inch, it's got to go forward, and we'll see what that does for this here. And then what I'll do is I will put in the heater unit that I took out, and we'll just check the height of it and go from there. Right, well, dry fitting this in, it's too tight. It's sitting right down on top, and I'm up high here on both sides. Now, I still have room to move up, and it kind of, it's got to kind of twist this way to get in there. I'm tight enough against the tranny. I really don't want to go down any further. I could go down half an inch. I'm going to put the gear shift back in and take a look, because there is this piece back here, right? So this is the insulation for the transmission tunnel, and as you can see, the gear shift actually goes right through it. It's a watertight part. This, it's completely rubberized. So I'm not worried about that. It's the distance here to the drive shaft that I am, I'm concerned about. Not overly concerned, but concerned enough. So the other thing, is also like, how close am I to my unit here, right? There's going to be zero room for a stereo in this thing where it originally was, and I'm going to have to take a look at that, to be quite honest. So let's just keep moving forward. So we've discovered that the heater unit definitely has to go forward. It looks like my my heads-up display is on the outside of the car, which might kind of be a cool thing, but I don't think so. I really would like to keep these vents, just to blow a bit of warm air, but if I lose them and all I have are floor vents, then that's all I've got. Floor vents and vents for the windshield. Okay, well, it's not far, It really isn't far to go. Well, this episode is done. We got a lot done here, like really a lot done. We got that suspension tacked into place. We got the transmission tunnel in place, and the heater unit, not fitting, but it will fit. It just, we got that power box over the far side done. We moved the seat back so that we could check the steering geometry, and a lot of headway, right? It was a big chunk to bite out of it this week, but this was all stuff that needed to at least be mocked up so that I can take the motor back out, stick it in a corner, cover it up, and not have to worry about it for a while. But as you know, I had to get the motor in order to check all this stuff. So thank you so much for sticking around. Like I said, we're all over the shop this week, or this episode. The booster. We got the brake booster in as well, which was something else. So, thanks for sticking around. Please like, subscribe, and notifications. Okay, and if you get a chance, pick up a Hornetic units. See you next time.